Welcome to the OK Let's Learn podcast. This is two podcasts in one. One where we dive into tons of interesting topics, and another where we dive into tons of interesting books and stories. My name is Kevin O'Keefe. So today, OK, let's learn and listen to and read all about the Jersey Devil. Yes, it's a story. It's an amazing folktale. It's an amazing history of New Jersey. And is it true or is it not true? They named a professional hockey team after the Jersey Devil. Is it real? Does it exist? Is it still out there today? And yes, it's down in South Jersey in the Pine Barrens. So, what we will do is I'll have you listen to the story of the Jersey Devil. And then, after the story, we will figure out what is fact and what is fiction. The wind never really stops blowing in the Pine Barrens. It whispers through millions of pine needles. It rattles cedar branches. It carries strange sounds farther than they ought to travel. People who have never walked through these woods imagine them as dark and frightening. They're actually beautiful. But are they dark? And are they frightening? Oh yeah. Miles upon miles of pine forest, crystal clear streams, stained the color of tea by cedar roots, white sand rose disappearing into endless trees. But once the sun slips below the horizon, the woods begin to feel very different. Even today. Now, we need to go back to 1735. No highways, no flashlights, no houses even a few hundred feet apart. Only scattered cabins separated by miles of wilderness. If someone knocked on your door after sunset, you heard them long before you saw them. If you heard something moving in the winds and in the woods, you hoped it was a deer. One evening, around 7 p.m., an old woodcutter named Thomas was making the long walk home. Snow covered the sandy trail. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds. His lantern cast only a small circle of yellow light. Suddenly, the forest became quiet. Not just quiet, silent. The wind stopped. The owls stopped calling. Even the crickets were nowhere to be heard. Thomas later said it felt as though the entire forest was listening. Then he heard it. Heavy footsteps. Too heavy for a fox, too slow for a deer. He lifted the lantern. Nothing. Again. Whatever it was, it stayed just beyond the light. Thomas called out, "Who's there?" No answer. Instead, a strange sound echoed through the trees. Not quite a scream, not quite the cry of an owl, not even anything like something that was human. No. It sounded like a horse, but if it was a horse, it had learned to whistle. The sound grew higher and higher until it became an eerie shriek that echoed through the forest. Thomas ran. He never looked back. When he reached home, he barred the door and told everyone he had heard something impossible, horrible, horrific in the woods. By morning, the story had spread all through the nearby villages, throughout the Pine Barrens. Most people laughed until others began hearing and telling similar stories. A hunter had claimed something enormous flew over his head without making a sound. A farmer discovered strange hoof prints crossing fresh snow. The track walked across a frozen creek, continued through the woods, and then just simply stopped. No animal tracks leading away, only hoof prints ending in the middle of nowhere. Children whispered about glowing red eyes watching from behind cedar trees. Travelers hurried through the forest before sunset. No one wanted to be caught in the Pine Barrens after dark. Years passed. The stories grew and grew. Some said a creature had a body of a kangaroo. Others described a long snail-like tail. Some insisted it had huge bat-like wings. Others said horse legs ended in hoofs. Nearly everyone agreed about one thing. Its eyes glowed like burning coals. Its cry was like anything anyone had ever heard. It simply became known as the Jersey Devil. Years later, one cold autumn evening around 6 o'clock, a young girl named Sarah became separated from her father while gathering firewood. The shadows grew longer. Every pine tree looked exactly like the last. She called out for her father. Only echoes answered. As darkness settled across the forest, fear slowly replaced confidence. Then, far off, she heard that strange cry that she had heard about years before. It echoed once, then again. Closer this time. Sarah hid beneath a fallen cedar tree. She held her breath. Branches cracked. Something large moved between the trees. She could hear wings, not flapping, gliding. She squeezed her eyes shut. The footsteps stopped. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Slowly, she opened one eye. Nothing. Only darkness. Then, two glowing red eyes appeared between the branches, watching. Not moving, watching. Sarah remembered something her grandmother had always told her. The woods belong to every creature that lives here. Walk with respect and leave no harm behind. She didn't scream. She didn't run. Instead, she quietly whispered, I'm only trying to find my way home. The eyes blinked once. The creature tilted its head. Then, with a powerful leap, it vanished into the darkness, leaving no trace behind. Moments later, though, Sarah heard another sound. Thankfully, it was her father's voice calling her name. Following the direction of his voice, she soon found the trail and safely returned home. When her father asked why she wasn't frightened anymore, Sarah simply smiled. I don't think it wanted to hurt me, Daddy. Decades became centuries. The stories continued. People claimed to hear strange cries. Hunters reported mysterious tracks. Campers told stories around campfires, and children dared one another to enter the Pine Barrens after sunset. Every generation added another chapter. Every storyteller added another detail. The legend grew larger, not because people proved it, but because people kept telling the same stories. Perhaps that's why legends are what they really are. Not to explain mythical creatures, not to explain mysteries, not to explain unexplained sounds, strange footprints, quiet, haunting darkness down in the Pine Barrens. Sometimes it's just our imaginations that need to fill in the rest. So, what parts of this story are actually true? Let's separate history from legend, history from folk tales. The Pine Barrens are real. They cover 1 million acres across South Jersey and are among the largest protected forest on the East Coast. Just drive down the Garden State Parkway, heading down to the Jersey Shore, and you'll be driving through the Pine Barrens. You'll see them. The earliest versions of the Jersey Devil legend are usually connected to a woman remembered in folklore as Mother Leeds. Leeds, according to the most famous version of the Jersey Devil legend. She already had 12 children, and while pregnant with her 13th child, she yelled out in frustration that the child is the devil. I don't want it. The story says the baby was born natural at first, but then transformed into a winged creature that flew up the chimney and disappeared into the Pine Barrens. It was cursed. Did this actually happen? Nope. No historical evidence suggests that it actually did. It's a legend. Over the centuries, though, the story became more dramatic with every retelling. The description of the creature also changed. Some storytellers gave it a horse's head. Others described goat-like horns. Some added bat wings. Others gave it a forked tail. There has never been one official description. In fact, the famous image of the Jersey Devil that most people recognize today is really a combination of all the different versions collected over hundreds of years. One reason the legend became so famous was a wave of reported sightings during January of 1909. Newspapers across New Jersey and nearby Pennsylvania published dozens of stories describing mysterious tracks, strange cries, unusual creatures. Schools closed in some towns. Factories briefly shut down, and the public became fascinated. This has happened. You investigate so many different stories of mystical creatures, unknown creatures, animals that apparently cannot be explained, whether it's a Loch Ness monster, whether it's the abominable snowman, or even Sasquatch, otherwise known as Bigfoot. The bottom line is mysteries become realities, and people like to believe. Historians generally believe the reports of this Jersey Devil reflected a mix of rumor, mistaken animal sightings, newspaper excitement in terms of trying to sell papers, and of course, imagination feeding on itself rather than evidence, right, of a real creature. And what about Leeds? That part is based on a real family. The Leeds family lived in colonial New Jersey, and historians believe political and religious disputes involving members of the family gradually blended with local folklore until the Leeds Devil eventually became known as the Jersey Devil. So while the people were real, no, this monster apparently was not. And yet the legend survives. Today, the Jersey Devil is one of New Jersey's best-known symbols. You'll find it everywhere: souvenirs, Halloween decorations, T-shirts, and of course, like I said up front, the national hockey team, the Jersey Devils in Newark, New Jersey. Now, to wrap up the podcast episode, you may have heard this, and it's true. Founding Father had something to do with the legend of the Jersey Devil. He does have a surprising connection. In the early 1700s, Benjamin Franklin became involved in this bitter controversy revolving around their publishing empire here in the Northeast. It was with the Leeds family. Daniel Leeds published almanacs that competed with Franklin's famous Poor Richard Almanac. And Franklin had basically mocked him in print, even suggesting that Leeds was a ghost after his death. Historians actually believe that over many decades, these public feuds and all these disagreements blended together. So, like I said, this Leeds Devil eventually transformed into the Jersey Devil, like I said before. So while Benjamin Franklin certainly didn't create the Jersey Devil, his playful attacks on the Leeds family certainly helped shape the legend that we know today as the Jersey Devil. Friends, thanks for taking this journey with me, listening to the story of the Jersey Devil, and then finding out all the facts behind the real Jersey Devil. Fact or fiction? Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group. We have a YouTube channel. Hit that plus button in the top right-hand corner to subscribe to the podcast. Always appreciate the reviews and the ratings that you can throw out there on Apple Podcasts, and send this podcast to friends and family so the podcast can grow. Until next time, have fun and keep learning.